we're doing the real start.
Yeah, I know.
As
Producer
opposed to our
Josh
full
maybe
start.
got a little excited and went early. I mean, we have our new high-tech camera here today. So.
Yes, we are not using our usual equipment at the moment. We are having a temporary solution as provided by wonderful host Thurston.
It's
who is
terrible
back
camera, I'm
from
sorry.
yet another round of cons.
Oh gosh, Gen Con. Whoa.
Oh,
Whoa.
man, jealousy is spiked.
Whoa.
Oh.
I must have walked by that Games Workshop booth like 4 times.
And saw all that Adeptus Titanica stuff.
I did.
eh?
We'll get to that. Don't worry. That's
Oh.
I mean, come on. Everyone here is really just wanting to hear about how awesome the battle for the Pelennor Fields is gonna. Just gonna keep talking. Yeah. So,
Well, first up, we've got, of course, the Tooth and Claw box set that's going to be coming out.
yeah.
And man, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited about this. Another high-value Games Workshop box set from the looks of it. The model content is looking fantastic, and if they can keep that price range affordable, then I think you'll see a lot of players splitting this one.
And by the way, everyone, welcome to the Dusty Aspects. I'm host Thurston.
No, no introduction.
All right, so Tooth and Claw. Let's talk about it. Okay.
Yes,
So
it has to be Tooth and Claw.
I mean, I'm all in. I was just talking to Kyle before the start of the show. I probably, I've got Logan out there who's like, hey, want to split a box? And then he was
God.
like, hey, maybe you want to split 2? And I'm like, I don't know about 2. Now I'm
you're all on
pretty,
2. Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
all in on 2, I think, at this point, because, seeing that Aberrant preview that went up today, did you?
Yes,
Oh, damn.
with the Abominants
And
the
the
HQ character.
the change to the power picks.
Yes, I love that.
And yeah, just
I love that.
just they seem to be really noticing things that are suboptimal, or
They're paying attention
things
a
you
little
would
bit.
never take,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whoa, there we go, we got a bright light, I like it. And so they're making changes to the decks, but they aren't huge.
Well, and this is what I was hoping to see from them when last year they were talking about paying close attention, making changes as
Yeah.
requested, is these little adjustments. Suddenly, the power picks is the example we're talking
Yeah.
about. Suddenly that becomes a very usable option instead of automatically going to
hammers.
the hammers, right?
I've been looking at the Aberrants because when I saw that they were going to do the box, my thought was,
Oh.
okay, how can I convert all these picks into hammers? I have Thunder Hammerheads, what? And then I saw the new pick roll. I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't need to. Yeah,
like
exactly.
maybe I want to have some picks going on there. So overall, I'm really excited for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Gene Stealer Cult is my 2019 army.
Yeah.
Because Nurgle.
Nurgle
But I can
2018.
pick up the Gene Stealer Cult stuff and put it in the
Well,
corner.
For those that have been paying attention to my ramblings on 40K for the last few months, Gene Stealer is one of the ones I keep mentioning as if it's good, I will jump on it.
They were one of the armies that really got me into the game way back when.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
when I started, I played Tyranids. My first 40K box was the old 6-man box of Gene Stealers that was slightly bigger than my phone. And that was how I got into the game. And then I heard about this thing that people were talking about called the Gene Stealer Cult. And I'm like, oh, they're going to bring it back. I was very jaded back then, and it took 20 years for them to come back around. I actually have a bunch of the old Gene Stealer Cult models,
Yeah.
the originals, the old Magus and everything.
Got the limo.
No
Oh,
limo. They never actually produced a limo.
Yeah,
It
they
was-
just had
it
that,
was all
that
converted,
example.
yeah.
Exactly. It was all versions, but still.
But yeah, so I love the
I love
direction.
that when they were previewed again back in 7th and coming out again, that was
Yeah.
what everyone jumped to, was the limo, the
Well,
limo, the limo.
And I love that I love the direction they went with sort of the mining colony.
I 100%
and
love that direction.
I love that feel for them.
It gives them something more unique than mutated base
Yeah.
humans. Basically mutated guard is what you'd be looking at otherwise.
Yeah. And so I'm excited for it. I'm probably going to do some dabbling with them in Kill Team. That's kind of my.
It's a good way to jump in.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more
of
about
course,
that
of
later.
course. We have that more towards the middle of the show. It's more of a middle show topic.
Yeah. But no, I'm really looking forward to Tooth and Claw.
Absolutely. And I think from the Space Wolf side, even what they're giving you for the Primaris is an excellent value.
Yeah, because you're getting
You're getting the
aggressors,
base set of intercessors.
intercessors, the character, and the dreadnought,
And the
right?
Yeah, special
Which-
Space Wolf character and the
How
Dread.
much is that dreadnought?
About $70.
Yeah.
That's why I'm predicting probably the 190 range, like the Soul Wars range for this box.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less, but
Yeah, I'm hoping the 150 to 200.
well, I
that
mean that's the
range.
sweet spot.
Yeah,
That is.
150 to 200 is sort of the area I'd be expecting.
Especially if it's usable with.
Oh yeah, and it's
Yeah.
and I mean the big thing that's a difference between this box and the boxes we've seen previous with Soul Wars and Dark Imperium. there's no big core rule book in it.
Exactly.
So how
It's
does
just a
that
mini book.
how
Where
does
does that
that
balance
impact
for it?
their price point? Because
Yeah.
the thing you've got to like keep in mind too is when you put a book in there like that, the shipping costs spike, like everything.
Oh, the weight is just
yeah.
through the roof at that point.
And so I wonder like what the buyback is on that and blah 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 boring boring
I think
logistics.
in the
but
end it would drop it 20 to 30 from the Soul Wars range. That's why I'm saying at the high end, the
Yeah.
190, the
I'm-
lowest probably 160.
I'm hoping the 160. Like I'm willing to buy 2 boxes, go to a friend and say,
"Whoop."
take these Marines, I'll take my cult.
We each get a mini rule book, and
Yeah, exactly.
everyone's off happy.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm excited by that.
Well, there's a Mr. Pierogi out there I'm hoping would be interested in a similar split.
yeah.
yeah.
I just think it's looking great. I
Since
like
it worked out so well for us when we did Soul Wars.
did, and I haven't touched like any stuff from that yet. I haven't even played AOS 2 yet. Haven't had time. Great times. I know.
Con season.
Yeah.
it's
Con
okay.
season. It's
okay.
I-
When you are free again, I have full intent to hook you back hard onto AOS because I am loving 2.0.
Yeah. But so Tooth and Claw's looking good.
Yeah.
The area they've kind of established for it, this planet Vigilus, they're really building that up.
I like that it's on the dark side of the Imperium, essentially.
Well, yeah, it's kinda like the bridge.
It's on the other side of the rift.
And one thing that has been interesting that they've mentioned in basically every article they've talked about it is that orcs are attacking the planet
Yes.
too. And so it's kind of like everyone was like, oh, well, I guess the orcs are really coming up until there was another big leak, which that
October.
yeah, we're gonna talk about that right here because it fits in.
It does fit in. That buggy.
The Speed Freaks.
Whoa.
The Speed Freaks
Whoa,
box, for those of you who
whoa.
haven't seen, there was a release of, I think it was like from a Chinese distributor. It looked like where it came from originally.
Yep.
Was a Speed Freaks box set with a new buggy.
Yep.
And in typical Games Workshop, like on the ball
Turn
fashion,
around within a couple hours.
Within a
they
couple
had their
hours,
video
they
out.
had their video
Yep.
up, which was a beautiful video.
I really, and every time they do this, I give them praise for it, but I really have to give them a lot of praise for
Yeah.
being on top of it like this. They would never, ever have done anything like this a couple of years ago. They would have been trying to shut down the leaks. They would have been using
Yeah.
force. Now they're just jumping on top, owning it.
Yeah, and they're getting the social media credit for it. I mean, within I would say an hour of that leak, I had Alex messaging me being like, "It's happening, Ron Polchev!" like, and that was just seeming like, okay, I can get behind this.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, so those models look good. I've heard some conflicting reports of what's going to be in that box.
Yeah.
I've heard definitely we've seen the new buggy.
The buggy is a for sure.
But
preview that.
But I mean, it looks like, and I'm getting the impression from seeing the box, it seems almost like it's a Gorka Morka-esque
yeah.
kind of
Another side game.
Side game.
But again, they've found some success so far with these.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I like, and even if it's not a Gorka Morka-esque side game, but it looks like they've got the same model, at least from the sprue leaks that have come out.
Yeah.
They've got what is essentially the War Buggy sprues.
Yeah.
And there's one red and I think a yellow.
Yeah.
It's colored sprue. Now, they probably recognize that when you're an orc, if you get half of a battle box, that means you've got actually a quarter of an army, because orc players need double of everything. So now
is
at
the
least
natural law.
Yeah, and now an orc player can just go out, buy this box.
Absolutely.
And be like, nom 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 buggies. And I hope there'll be some boys in there.
Oh, yeah, to flesh it out just a little bit.
Yeah, and I hope we'll see
Yeah.
some other figs from that. But I mean, I really think we're starting to see the schedule solidify for the rest of the year. It looks very clear like we're going to see.
We're going to have October.
Well, we're going to have October, but kind of
That's
rolling it
coming
back
in.
to now.
Yeah.
We're getting Space Wolves up for pre-order next weekend.
Yes. Titanicus is, of course, hitting.
Yeah.
You've got the Wolves coming.
But we got the Wolves coming.
Yeah.
We're probably going to get maybe 2 weeks of releases from them. We'll probably
wouldn't say
get
a giant release
We'll
for them,
probably
yeah.
get the decks this weekend. Next week we'll probably see some Primaris with an upgrade sprue. Here you go,
Absolutely,
similar to what they did with the
absolutely.
Blood Angels.
It's not going to be a giant release.
I suspect September we're likely going to see Gene Stealer Cult.
I would imagine they're going to try and pepper that through.
The alternative to that is
Yep, fingers crossed, Producer
Josh is there with
Fingers
me
crossed.
on that. But I also think what we could see, and it's entirely possible, is we might see an AOS release in September.
There has been strong rumors about Moonclan.
Moonclan Grots,
seeing
and
a
there have been
release.
some pictures and stuff
September
that
to
have come
October
out.
was the range there. My only concern with that is they're probably going to have to do a large range release. So it depends how much they're pushing out with both, I guess, the Wolves and the Gene Stealers.
Well,
and then in the end, how much they're pushing out with the Orcs.
And this brings me back to the Gene Stealers. It's
Yeah.
entirely possible that we won't get a Genestealer release in September, and they might just release the box and kind of like
Keep
hold
that book
and
until
they've
later,
yeah,
yep.
and they've done that in the past where they've released a box set with new models and then kind of held like.
And by the tone of the articles, it doesn't seem that there's a book on the heels of this.
And like they did that with the original Death Watch Overkill box
Yes,
because
yes, they did.
we got those Genestealer cult models and it was what like
It was
6 months.
It was about 6
before
months. It was February when, around February when the Overwatch came out,
Yeah.
and it was close to September, October range before Codex. So yeah.
So I mean, we could see something similar, but we've got our October locked in. Now, another thing that could come of this is we could have October, and that could also translate to an AOS thing too.
Oh, I'd be really surprised if they didn't, but they could tie in the Moon Clan.
And I'm gonna
Green and green,
I'm gonna
right?
continue on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
like aliens trend of I'm going to say that starting November, December, that's when we're going to see Slaanesh and Emperor's Children. Like,
Absolutely. I think what we're going to see is them towards the last couple months of the year. Probably not December because they like to do their big Christmassy releases, but
yeah,
like
they're
end of November, kind
November,
of thing.
yeah.
And then into the January, February releases, I think we'll see the demon end of it, like the Sigmar focus.
yeah, or what we'll see is a similar thing where it's a couple months between, like they did for Nurgle.
Exactly. And they did Zinch, very similar.
And since I have my Chaos faction, we're all good, everybody. I'm not going all in on Slaanesh.
Are you sure?
I'm not.
Are you sure?
No. Because that leads down like a dark road of retroactively going back to Zinch and being like, no.
Well, yeah, of course. You gotta get the
Yeah,
Zinch
I know. But actually, I'm
But then you
really
have to go back another year and a half, 2 years, and do the corn as well.
yeah, but they'll get a redo. I'll wait for the
They'll
world
wait for them
leaders
to
on
come
that,
around to
yeah.
the next cycle. Yeah, that's fair. No, I think they're in a great spot there.
Yeah, and I think like with some of the like the Luda stuff we've got coming on, I mean,
Yep.
like with you know the speed freaks and like
Yep.
looted vehicles. I mean, I think they'll just loot a Plagueburst crawler. That's what we need.
Now-
Looted orc Plagueburst crawlers.
I think that they'd really benefit from looting a Harlequin jet bike. You can get 2
Oh, yeah.
orcs on there.
Actually, this is a discussion really funny Alex and I often have when he complains to me about the Orc Codex right now. Is I really feel that like Haywire as a rule
Yeah.
is something that orcs just need.
Oh, I would be okay with orcs getting a Haywire.
My big the big problem with orcs
In
is
fact, if it was a better Haywire than Admech, I'd be really okay with them getting
yeah,
it.
I know. But
Yeah.
they just like have this problem. Like they've always had a problem with armor because their only way to deal with
Tank
armor has
bustas.
always been either a unit of tank bustas, which is like really weird.
It's
and
throwing missiles
fidgety.
at it, which doesn't really do it.
Well, and it's so hard with like
Light armor, sure, but when you hit anything
it's
Land
so
Raider,
hard with hitting on fives. And it's like and when you're firing at a Land Raider, it's like okay,
here's
like,
5s, and then here's 4s to
wound, and then they get a save, and like all this stuff. I think like a Haywire-esque sort of thing would be good for them, riffing off the Harlequin thing.
Even better if they could, have some kind of feedback damage on like one. Oh, so work. But yeah, something like that I think would be really good
Yeah.
for them. They need something to pen vehicles other than Power Claws or Tank Busters.
Yeah. All right. Shall we talk about the elephant in the game store that doesn't move?
I guess, yeah. So, on to Games Workshop's newest standalone box game, Adeptus Titanicus.
Is this a Games Workshop game or is this a Forge World game?
This is technically both because they've made Forge World kind of the specialist studio thing now. So Blood
We
Bowl.
have an interrupting
Oh, yeah.
question here.
Hi, Mike. Yes,
Mike has asked.
Kyle, tell Thurston how bad you kicked my ass last night in our 40 Below Game League game. So
How bad was it?
it was 16-7 in terms of victory points.
Was he playing his tank heavy Cronus Tapicat?
Yes, but
And you were playing Harlequins?
I was playing Harlequins.
You don't need to say anything more.
I
I'm
did
sorry
not
you
have-
had to endure that, sir.
I had no Haywire bikes.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was 3 fusion boats. So I'm not saying that I didn't have things to pen it,
Fair
but
enough.
based on the way the mission was, you've got 2 deployment zones that are your
Yeah.
primary zones, and you have 2 in the secondary. He put his spearhead in the secondary zone, but because I had gotten to go first in terms of choosing deployment, when he was doing his primary drop, he had Calgar in there.
Okay.
Put him as far to the corner as he could so he could move over into the secondary zone and buff his spearhead.
Oh, no.
And then I just went and took that deployment with my secondary.
Secondary,
Yeah, which was just a Dark Eldar patrol. It's just a
Whatever.
patrol.
Yeah, there you go.
So then he's all the way on the other end. I moved this way with the fusion bolts first, zap all the scouts and Calgar was turn 1. The rest of the scouts were wiped out from there, and then I just kind of pulled over.
Whoa, fast.
Yeah, so I ended up taking both of his detachments out.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've yet to have my league game, so
Oh, sir.
soon.
Single tier. Who do you
helping.
have for your league game?
Jeff, whose last name I forget. We've been kind of
Ah,
back and
okay,
forthing on when we're gonna get the game in. So
But yes, so now that we've had that aside, I would
Adeptus
call it a Games
Titanicus.
Workshop standalone game because it would fall into the same classification as Blood Bowl to me.
yeah,
Where Games Workshop put it out, Games Workshop promotes it, and it's sold through their website heavily. But the specialist end of it,
Is the
the
Forge
star
World.
players, the extra bits, it's coming from Forge World. I
I'm
suspect we'll see something similar here.
just gonna say like I don't see it. I'm having I wanted to do some proper research. So first of all, I won't lie. Like I saw the price point of this thing, and was like really
That
taken
made me
aback.
take the step back.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, 350 Canadian.
350 Canadian.
Yeah.
I was prepared for up to 300.
350 is, and so one of the things going back to an earlier topic we discussed when I was at Gen Con and I went by that Games Workshop booth,
Yes.
they had all of those models on display. And whilst the Warlord does look impressive,
Which you would expect for a model of both that size and price point.
absolutely,
Yeah.
it is not. It struck me as similar to a like, okay, we've stretched out a Wraith Lord a little bit, like it's tall, and like maybe it's a bit bigger, but it's like
It doesn't feel it.
it doesn't have like the same like heft or size as like a knight, like a standard size knight. So it's smaller.
Which is what you would expect.
Well, and
or
even,
something
even if
similar.
it's not, like
Yeah.
I actually think the Warlord model that they've done for Adeptus Titanicus is beautiful and great.
Absolutely.
My problem is that price point just immediately makes me go nuh-uh. And there's a couple reasons I have
Yeah.
for this. First off, you get 2 of those Warlords, and let's be generous and say those are $100 boxes.
$130 boxes.
Yeah, but let's be generous and say like that's
Yeah.
that's like what that model should be worth.
Yeah.
The fact that they're
Not-
higher is even better.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you get the Knights, which are
They're 40 for the box of 3.
they're 40 for the box of 3,
Yeah.
which is like they're on.
That's the most affordable thing.
Yeah, and
but they're still like 32 millimeter.
They're,
Right?
they're
still-
32 mils.
Yeah.
They're smaller than Terminators.
Yep.
That like, and
And that's
so
the most affordable thing.
so you're looking at like that. Like let's look at that pricing.
So
for
let's say
example.
280 right there.
So yeah, you're getting the figs, like, and sure people are going to be like, oh well, you're getting everything else for free. It's great, but the cost on those figs are just astronomical. Now,
Yes.
I'm going to go into where I kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to do research on this. I watched a couple streams of people who were playing the game.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to get a sense of like, okay, how does this box
And there are
play?
a couple really
Yeah.
reliable streamers that do the previews,
Yeah,
do get the advanced copies.
I would say Gorilla Miniatures was the one I watched. That like
that's
very,
the one that I rely on the most.
Yeah,
to be perfectly
does
honest.
some like, it's not 100% perfect, but you know what? He's better than 90% of streams out there. As he lists stuff.
Absolutely, and he gets more. He corrects himself on more rules
And
than
it's
anyone else
it's
does.
clarity, and it's it was very easy for me to watch.
Yes.
That being said, the game was very boring to watch.
And that is not good.
No, and
Like,
part of the problem,
Especially coming from a perspective from someone like us who plays
Yeah.
these kind of games.
and part of my problem and why it was really boring to watch is so you have your Warlord, and it's
Right.
essentially you have to split the box in two. You have Warlord 3 Knights versus Warlord 3 Knights.
And that little bit of terrain.
And yeah, the terrain which I think is utilized to like balance out for missions and things.
Okay.
But they were not playing with those like weird gun emplacements or anything. They were playing with Warlord 3 Knights. Now,
Okay.
as I was watching, I found that the Knights contributed in very little ways and
All right.
could easily be mitigated unless they were fighting the other Knights.
So basically, unless
So
it
it's
was
like
night on
the
night
children
combat,
the children table is over here and the Warlord
And the big boys are
table
playing
is
over there.
is the real game. And then you have like the Warlord which has its data sheet and it's like this like
yeah,
like
I
big
saw those
sheet.
data sheets, and that looked like it was a little more confusing than necessary.
See, and I love complicated games. I mean,
Absolutely,
I write
yes.
for a complicated game.
But
My
there's a difference between complicated and that busy.
but the thing is the business on that
Yeah.
sheet didn't seem to add much because like when we talk about these games, they're D6 games.
Absolutely, at the
like
core of it.
you're rolling a
Yep.
6-sided die. There's not a lot of like wiggle room that's going on there, and like most of what I noticed on those sheets was glorified like. Well, you're suffering some penalties to hit, or oh boy, you're
Okay.
tracking
Okay.
shields. And that
trying to
that
give
was
the
about
impression
it.
of the damage.
Yeah, and it felt really clunky
Oh.
from a like, wow, I sure do have one model that I'm doing this for.
Yeah.
Whereas like on the reverse side of it, doing some research for our next segment,
Mm-hmm.
I had been really digging into Kill Team, and Kill Team
Yes.
is like at its heart very similar. Like, it's guy on guy shooting, but you have like
There's
like 5 to 10 guys per side,
And there's more layer
doing a bunch of
complexity
things,
in that.
and you don't have tracking sheets
Yeah.
for everyone. You don't have all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's very quick. Like
And that's
you put
doing
down the
complexity in
tokens.
an interesting way as opposed to just kind of like a hectic, a busy, an uninteresting way.
The way we talk about it, like in role playing games, is there is a difference between complexity and depth.
There you go.
And depth is something where you can really like bite into a system. You can take off layers and find things that you enjoy, like building a character in a role playing game.
Certainly.
There's depth to
Certainly.
that. But complexity is like we've introduced this whole new subsystem that, like, yeah, okay. Case in point, let's go back to Death from the Skies or Death from Above. Like those type of systems don't necessarily add depth
No.
to the game.
No, they just
add
added
needless
complexity.
complexity.
Yep.
Um,
I saw one time where adding the Death from the Skies rules and that extra layers of complexity actually panned out to something game changing.
Yeah.
Other times I saw you use it, never.
Yeah, exactly. And,
never
and
happened.
so I get that impression, like,
Yep.
seeing Adeptus Titanicus played, and maybe I'm completely wrong, and I'm
Oh,
just
absolutely.
misreading the game, but
But you've got a pretty good grasp on these things.
but I'm gonna go to video game culture for a second here. Kids, don't pre-order video games. Like, watch reviews. Like, look into what you're purchasing.
Number of times I got burned doing pre-orders before I
Steam
learned.
has this cool feature for video games where you can like play them for up to 2 hours and then go, no, refund. There's a lot of cool stuff. You should be researching what you're buying. And for $350, you're damn right I'm going
Now-
to research rather than being told by someone whose job it is to sell this to me.
There-
It's the greatest thing since
Exactly.
sliced bread.
And there's another
no.
layer to that apparently, specifically with Titanicus, they're trying to market it to their elite players.
Yeah,
And
that,
when they phrase it like that in terms of price point and wallet, that doesn't feel
and
great
this is the
at
thing,
all.
like the only people who I've personally talked to who have said they're interested in buying it are like, yeah, I'm buying the box, but I know a guy who knows a guy who buys GW off the back of his truck, so I'm getting it at cost, and that's the only way it's doable.
Fell off a truck.
Yeah, and those are the only people I've heard of who are actually interested in buying this.
I saw a few pre-orders being placed at the store,
Which-
but
for
even
sure.
at that, it was not what they would anticipate as a giant release. Not
Yeah.
for the promotion they're putting into it, not for the push they're trying to put into it.
Yeah, it seems
it's
like-
not reverberating with the community.
It just seems like, and I know even in our group chats for like Footy Below and the Winnipeg groups, like just everyone is kind of like just dismissed it offhand
Yep.
right away.
It went from moderate to,
Yeah.
a severe interest, depending on the person. Because there were some who were like, yes,
all in.
all in.
And then they saw that price point and they were like, all out.
And which is funny, because it's a difference of $50, but that value suddenly changes really hard when you're
But
adding that in.
it's a difference of $50, but it's also a difference of $50 and you look what you're getting in that box.
Exactly.
And this goes back to talking what we were talking about with Speed Freaks, where I think Speed Freaks is this great box because you buy a box and if you want to play orcs versus orcs with your friend, you can do that. But if you're an orc player and you're buying the box for the models, you're buying the box and assembling both sets of models for you, and it's going into an army.
Yep.
You probably don't even care about the game. I know that was me in Deathwatch Overkill.
Oh, sure,
I wanted
sure.
Genestealer cult models. Now, with Adeptus Titanicus, I don't think you're gonna see that because
There's no crossover.
but you're gonna buy that box.
Yeah.
And you're gonna pay $350 so you can own that box because you're going to need more than one Titan and more than 3 knights to be.
I'm just dreading for when we see like the Reaver Titan and the Warhound Titan.
Oh yeah.
prices.
But I mean, like you look at it, I'm gonna buy that box. So I'm going to go, I'm going to get it, I'm going to have 2 warlords, probably put different
Yep.
weapon options on
Sure.
them. Knights, same thing, different weapon options, cool. That's all well and good, but then if I want to play someone and have like a like casual, competitive, whatever type of gaming you do.
Any game.
I need someone else to go out and spend $350 minimum and be
Minimum.
like,
To
all
invest in
right,
this."
so we've invested like with taxes over $800
And
on
congratulations.
this, and then we play it once
You're
and
now
hate
elite
it.
players.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It to me is just this really, like, I understand the appeal of premium products.
I certainly do. I certainly
but
do.
I-
But this, I don't
This
think
is
is the right way
yeah,
to
this is
approach
different.
it.
This is
Yeah.
not how. This is such a misstep from what we were talking about with Tooth and Claw, what we've
Hell,
seen
even
with Dark
if you wanna
Imperium,
go
with Soul
to
Wars.
An example that's closer to this and use Blood Bowl, where again it's a classic game. It's being redone.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's crossing over into 40K or into Sigmar from the box set.
Yeah.
But you look at the value you're getting out of the box. You look at the value of the game itself.
Yeah.
They've still made some missteps, in my opinion, but not
Yeah.
like this. Not right off the hop, diving headfirst into the price pit and going, "Yep, they're going to support it."
And I mean, I get a similar concern with, and I'm really curious. Again, our like North America is a very different market.
Oh, certainly.
But I'm very curious to see how their Lord of the Rings: The Battle of the Pelennor Fields, because that was actually in the tray
yeah.
underneath Adeptus Titanicus, and there's some kind of story there. But it was in the tray underneath Adeptus Titanicus at the Gen Con booth for Games Workshop, and my research into that game, because I wanted to get a sense of it, and when I started going through that, like, I noticed really quick, like, these are all sculpts that are like 10 plus years old now. They've only added one new model to the box, and that's because it's a character who didn't exist in plastic.
Okay, so nothing new to appeal,
So-
but they're trying to hook people in again.
It to me does not seem like a good way to pull in
Yeah.
people
That
to the
seems
Lord of
like
the
a
Rings.
rough jump.
And yeah, I get the impression that it's very much like the rule book was the focus, but man, we have all these riders of Rohan sitting in our factories that we still need to get rid of.
Riders out!
So I feel like especially because those two games are way more Forge World focused. Like, despite them being pushed by Games Workshop, I mean, Forge World is responsible for Adeptus Titanicus. They're responsible for Lord of the Rings now.
Absolutely.
So
The specialist games.
yeah, and so that sort of like misstep on the specialist games is concerning to me.
Yes,
because-
they can only make so many.
and it's like I really wanted Necromunda to work out and be awesome, and it
There's
just
another one that hurts me deep down.
and it's like, wow, I'm way more interested in Kill Team right now because it seems to match. Now Mike was asked from the from Twitch, you know, can you play Titanicus with your old Epic Knights? And I believe, like, as long as they're based on the same base size, the actual game I saw played from Guerrilla Miniatures was he'd only painted up one of the new warlords, and
Yeah.
the other warlord was one of the old school Titanicus ones.
Okay, there you go.
And so he did it that way to show it off.
Because I know they
but-
talked about switching the scale to like closer to an 8mm from a
Yeah.
6mm, but then yeah, as long as the size is close enough, there shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, so no, I think that's fine. But yeah, overall, I think like Titanicus is in this really weird position that I
yeah.
don't.
It's hard for me to get enthused about it. It's hard for me to see positives about it. I'm on a wait and see with this, even more so than Necromunda or Kill Team.
Yeah.
And only one of those three has panned out so far.
All right,
which let's
all right,
dive
all
into
right.
that
So
one.
let's turn the bus from like shade, salt, happy times.
You're gonna turn that frown upside down.
Kill Team. So.
That's not an upside down frown. That's a smile.
Yeah. So Kill Team. I was very much excited about it because I could tell it was going to be different with the amount of hype they were putting behind it and a lot of the information that was coming out about it.
They are giving it so much more support.
The fact that like they announced from the beginning they're like organized play is going to be a thing, and like that is my job. I do role playing game organized play, so I understand the importance
Yep.
of that to a
They
community.
started dipping their toe in with Shadespire
Mm-hmm.
as kind of a test of if they can do this, and I think they've had enough positive results that they felt Kill Team is the next step they can take.
Yeah. So
Exciting, very
and
exciting.
I mean, like, it's small things too that really made it stick out. Is like,
Yeah.
okay, this isn't just like we're putting like a thin rule book in a box and some models, and here you go. One thing that got to me was there's kind of a complete almost brand like or
Yes.
like a layout redo in this
Yes,
book. Like
absolutely.
they've got this really nice like orange sort of like
I like what they did with it, yeah.
layout and so I was very interested from the beginning, but I know everyone in the community, and there's some people looking at you, Scott Buer, who was like, "It's gonna be another Shadow War Armageddon. They aren't tricking me twice." So I kind of was on the same boat after Scott raised those concerns. I'm like, okay, I'll wait. Like, you know what? I have enough models around that, like, if the game is
can
cool,
jump into this,
I
yeah.
can get the PDF and try it out and see. So that was my plan. As soon as I saw that Death Guard only required 2 models, I was like, sweet, that's cool. I've done a lot of Plague Marines on my table.
My goodness.
But then, last Friday at Hidden City, I went in to go collect my trophy from our Age of Sigmar League and use my gift certificate I won. And lo and behold, George had 1 box of Kill Team in, so I picked that up. So that is sitting at home right
you
now.
jerk.
Yeah. I was actually
You
like,
jerk.
I was surprised. I thought
That's a good box too.
Yeah, I thought he was.
Yeah.
I didn't think he would be ordering anything more because George.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to
Hidden
tell.
City's closing, but he got a couple in, so there was 1 left out there, so I picked it up. Was really excited. Got home, started like pouring over the rule book, and
I'm decently sold on the rulebook.
I did the same thing that I did with Adeptus Titanicus. I watched a lot of games.
Yep.
Like it was funny because with Adeptus,
You have to.
with Adeptus Titanicus, I kind of watched like 1 game and I immediately got what the game was about, and I'm like, I'm not
It's
into
not for
this.
you. It's not going to play.
I watched about 4 different Kill Team games from different streamers to be like, it's not just like that the streamers got me psyched on this. I'm like, no, like there's a lot of intricacy to this game.
Absolutely.
And
Even something as simple as going in the same upgrade tree and ending up at 4 different points. Oh, I love it.
So like I'm really looking to get into it.
Yes, this is one I will jump in now.
I'll probably putter a bit with like Death Guard, but I think I really want to focus on like, okay, I'll start my Gene Stealer cult with this. I'll get the extra Neophyte models. I'll get the the Tooth and Claw stuff that's coming.
What about Sisters of Silence?
Yeah. Let's.
Yeah.
So armies that do not exist in Kill Team consist of like Adeptus Custodes, Inquisitorial Imperial Agents, Sisters of Silence,
Demons.
and Demons, which is another big one. Which is funny because like Sisters of Silence to me, Sisters of Silence to me that's what they're about. They're like kill teams who are sent to go hunt down
To
rogue
me, that's a
psychers
super
and-
easy one to do for kill.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. Like Alex has been building Kroot lately, and he's like, why can't I have a Kroot like warband?
that
And it's
bugs
like,
me.
but you know what? I get the impression too that this is a game where if they sort of follow the same scheme of Necromunda, where they release the subsequent like books,
They can.
they can add that stuff in and do some really cool stuff with those supplement
Absolutely, you can do
books.
some very themed supplements. You can do some very cool things if you decide to do the sisters, even tossing in the custodes and the demons at the same time.
Yeah, I'm okay with Custodes not being in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they don't make sense for a kill team. That's not what they do.
Well, you put 2 custodes and send them out.
One.
And then you've got a kill team. Right.
But then like we've seen the previews of the Rogue Trader game that's coming.
Yeah, that.
With like the weird chaos, like
was gonna say that
Nurgle
Nurgle,
mutants
yeah,
and the
yeah.
Rogue Trader household with like the guards
and that was tied in with Kill Team as well.
and
from
it
what I
seemed
remember.
like that was going to be tied in with Kill Team. And if that's the approach they want to go, where they kind of introduce these minor sub factions,
Absolutely.
I am
all sold for
all in. So
Yes, the fact that.
we got okay.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest issue. Whoa.
Biggest issue with Kill Team is that all Space Marines are lumped into the same Adeptus Astartes War
yes.
Gear options. I play Space Wolves and can't take a single Storm Shield. I agree. I understand why they might not want to
I can see
approach it right now,
Yeah.
of giving a ton of individual ones, but I can see expanding that.
I also
bridge.
think they're being very careful on the war gear choices because one thing I have definitely noticed from watching the games of it is there's a lot of dice variants. You don't see any 2+, like no 2+s. Like most of the weapons are very much like I hit you, you're gonna get a save. So it's like 4+, and you get a save, and then I have to roll if I
And the
kill you.
invols are something that's a touch rarer.
And so like things like storm shields, I can see the hesitance because like, oh crap, we have a bunch of guys going around with storm shields.
That's
They'll
hard
never
to
get
toss
taken
one in.
out.
Yeah.
So I like, and their point system for the game is very it's not as granular. It's like 3 points for a heavy weapon, which is kind of crazy, but
Oh yeah, well I was looking at the Harlequins and I saw the fusion pistols with 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay.
absolutely. And but then
Let's do it.
you're also like in this weird situation where in 40K you've kind of got the mentality of like, well, I'm going to have my 8 guys who have these special weapons. There's probably a character around who's giving them a buff, and there's probably a psychic power on them too that's giving them another buff. So I'm rolling this pile of dice, re-rolling this, re-rolling that. Oh look, I get like 4 hits and you're dead. Whereas in Kill Team it's like nuts. It's a guy who doesn't get any re-rolls. Like pew. Oh, I missed. Guess that's over. Oh, I didn't wound you. Guess that's over. Oh, you saved. Poop. Oh, it's only a flesh wound. You're still like there's these layers to it that still make it a very intense game.
Yep.
Because like once you're on sort of one-on-one models, like and I was watching a game that had Necrons in it too, and it's like the Necron rule is sort of this weird like counterbalance to the way the game is already formatted. Fabio, if you're watching, get all in on Necrons to Kill Team. They're so
My God,
cool.
Someone said get all in on Necrons.
Yeah. But it's like the way it works is if you actually manage to take something down to 0 wounds, you roll a d6, and with some modifiers, and on a 4+, basically, you take them out of the game.
Okay.
And a 1 through 3, they get a flesh wound. But for Necrons, if you roll a 6, they just come back. So like you're in this like I want to roll a 4 or a 5. I don't want
not
to roll
a
a 6
6.
because then the robot gets back up. Like it's this weird thing, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. I mean, it's probably going to be one of the things I want to get into after Highlander. Like start playing that. There's AOS 2.
Absolutely.
There's all these things I gotta get playing. But yeah, like Kill Team
you
is.
step off for even a couple weeks and that train just keeps going.
Well, lately, like summer,
Yeah.
good lord, my wallet weeps. I just also purchased my 2 more Charon Inquisitors to the Sisters of Silence, so the wallet is done. But Sisters of Silence is going to happen. Forge World has promised me a book, and if not, we're apparently doing 30K in September. So yeah,
how's that AdMech book that they promised you?
yeah. Let's not talk
Yeah.
about that.
All right. So, Kill Team, very positive from your perspective.
Yeah.
I've also looked at it as a very positive release so far. Most of the concerns that I had initially have been allayed just by them talking about planned future releases.
Yeah, and if they're going to do future releases, if they're going to support it with mini factions, that's such a cool way to bring
Yep.
things into the game that
Well-
don't necessarily deserve a product line.
Yeah, you look at 3-4 years ago where they started bringing in the smaller armies like AdMech and Harleys and Gene Stealers. It's like-
And those are kind of like the smallest army you can really get away with from a 40K perspective.
absolutely. Going to any of these smaller
But with
sub-factions,
Kill Team, you
can
get
flesh
things
out-
like
yeah.
inquisitorial warbands that are not these like weird, here's 4 unit options in a codex, ha ha ha, lol.
Here's a bunch of acolytes.
You can get like rogue trader households.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
get like these crazy like little chaos mutant bands and war bands.
I look
we
forward
can
to seeing
get
what they do with Chaos Cults. you know?
yeah, Xenos mercenaries, like all those
Absolutely.
other servitor races for the Tau we haven't, like all that stuff seems.
Yeah, they just restore from what I recall.
Yeah, my understanding is I think they just restore and they don't take the flesh wound.
Yeah.
So Necrons are boss. I could be wrong. I don't have the book in front of me, but either way, even if they do keep the flesh wounds, that's
still
still
solid.
like you're reducing your chance of taking that flesh wound. And if you're like in a case where you're behind cover, that modifier goes up by 1. So then, because of how the Necron rule works, only on a 5 are you taking them out. Like that's crazy.
Fantastic.
Love it. I love it.
Fantastic.
So they seem pretty interesting.
It provides that durability.
So we're on the hot takes train here. Do we want another hot take?
Why don't you breathe a little more fire?
Whoa. Wait for it. So, Gen Con, one of the things that I made sure to do, and it was basically the like one place I eyed in on and ran to when I finally had a chance to go to the
Laser
dealer
locked
hall,
in, ran.
was Ulysses Spiel North America, who
Mm-hmm.
is producing Wrath and Glory, which is the new Warhammer 40K RPG.
which I have been eagerly awaiting your impressions.
And so I've been researching this since it came out. I actually met the person who worked on it last year at Gen Con, because Ulysses Spiel last year shared the booth with Paizo, so I got to talk to
hey,
them.
there
Hey,
you
that was cool. And so Ross Watson, I believe is his name. He's the head designer on it. He actually worked for Fantasy Flight, doing the same, worked on the Fantasy Flight games.
There's
I
a bit pedigree right
believe was
there.
involved with the original like Black Industries prior to Fantasy Flight picking it up. So there was a lot
bit of
of
history with
yeah.
it,
So
yeah.
so he's basically been with the game since forever, and they've had a lot of staff and stuff. But the game is completely different than the Dark Heresy style games.
Very interesting.
I for those you who don't know, like Dark Heresy was the first 40k RPG that they did as like a role playing game system, not a miniatures. There was
What an
Inquisitor. We're not counting Inquisitor. We're not talking about Inquisitor. No one wanted like miniatures that were this big. No.
Are you sure?
Correct. People wanted to pull out their models from their armies and use them. And Dark Heresy and then the following like 5 games they did
Yeah.
in the 40k
Yeah.
universe, those were all like not they were more traditional role playing games. They weren't
Absolutely.
as focused on miniatures. They were definitely focused on like
The experience.
the experience.
setting, yeah.
And Wrath and Glory is a similar way, though they have all the rules for how to like move on a
Incorporate,
tactical
yeah.
map and
I love that end of it.
yeah. But one thing that's really interesting about Wrath and Glory is that it's a D6 system.
Oh, interesting.
So there's no like D20s, D10s. It's all D6s. And it's a dice pool game. Are you familiar with how a dice pool mechanic works?
Moderately, but
So essentially,
Well, quick.
when you do skills or whatnot, you're going to determine what your dice pool is for that skill. And then on like a 4, 5, or 6, it's a success.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, it's a failure. And then there's sometimes exploding mechanics. And
I
the,
love
the
the
game
exploding
the game
mechanics.
has some interesting built-in mechanics. The wrath and the glory elements, where there's like wrath, which is sort of your like personal player cachet of cool points you can do stuff
Okay.
with, and then there's the glory, which is the party cachet, where they can decide like,
Ah.
okay, we need this player to actually succeed on this, and we're going to use glory for that.
Yeah.
And it's all based on like there's strong mechanical elements to it,
Mm-hmm.
but everything in the game is very much based with a narrative focus.
Very interesting.
So you can actually spend some of these points to do things like what are called like narrative declarations.
Okay.
Where one of the players can be like, I use one of my like awesome points, and I'm looking for ammo because I'm out of ammo for my bolter, but there's conveniently an ammo pile right on this dead body. I'm gonna go pick that up, and you can spend a point to basically kind of force the scene.
Yeah.
And you can't obviously use it to be like, I used my point and all our enemies are dead. Hallelujah. But you can.
Emperor, you've come back.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But you can use it to kind of like help the GM help you, and
Yeah.
conversely, there's points for the GM, which are kind of just like jerkbag points. For the,
Yes!
they're called ruin points, and the idea is like
That's even better.
the game has a very good notation in it of a concept in games that we often see called failing forward. And the idea is when you fail in a role-playing game, if you've played like D&D or whatnot, you can understand that sometimes like if you fail a critical skill check or something like that, that the game can actually stall as a result of that.
absolutely,
And you
yeah.
never like did you not make the knowledge check to identify those ruins as like the important thing of this ancient dead king? Well, guess what? You're not going to find the treasure or carry on your adventure,
then
and
the
it's
adventure-
over.
Yeah.
Instead, like there's this concept of failing forward, which really pushes this idea of you fail. You still are able to find the king's treasure
Yeah.
or whatnot, but the GM gets a ruin point, maybe.
Okay.
And,
okay.
and the GM can't use those for story purposes because game masters can tell whatever story they want. There's no I don't need points to
No,
create
you
a
don't
scene
need
or
to
do
be able
anything.
to alter.
But I might be using a stat block for a monster that's like, it can spend a rune point to like rip open reality and bring some demon buddies in. And it's all mechanical stuff. So
That is an interesting way to do it.
so you can have this like whole setup at the beginning of the game where the players flub like finding the tomb.
Yeah.
But you tell them, okay, if you flubbed, you're still able to find it after a few hours, but it gives me this rune point. And then in the climactic final battle, you can be like, oh, remember when you flubbed that roll right away and gave me this point? Well, here comes the bloodletter. Like it's
Yeah.
this beautiful thing where it's a joint storytelling and like the players kind of have that investment of like we don't want to mess up because we're gonna give the GM. I'm looking at you, Thurston. We're gonna give you some jerk things to do to us, and I really like that element of it. The other thing that really stuck out to me about Wrath and Glory as a game is that I was really hesitant when they showed it at first, and they were like, the cover has a commissar and a Primaris Space Marine. I'm like, how is that going to work? Like, if you've looked at all of these, if you've looked at all these games that would like have come out like from Fantasy Flight, they really sectioned off the power levels of things.
Yes.
There was Dark Heresy, your inquisitorial warband, like almost nobodies who like, wow, you're an acolyte with a las pistol, way to go. Then they went into like Rogue Trader, where it's like, hey, we're in the fringes, and maybe we've got like a Kroot with us, or like an Eldar. And then you had like Death Watch, which was okay. Just fudge it, we're Space Marines, like badasses of the Imperium. Then you had Black Crusade, which was like, okay, chaos. And they had a very cool mechanic of being able to have like, here's the Chaos Space Marine characters, and here's the not Chaos Space Marine characters, but the Chaos Gods are like, oh, you're not a Space Marine and you're able to do all this stuff? Here, have some awesome gifts and cool powers, and it was a good balance. And then Only War, which was like the Imperial Guard campaign. But so how do you capture that in a single system? And what Wrath and Glory does that I thought was really elegant is they introduced like the concept of tiers for your game. And so it's like tiers like 0 through 5. And 0 is like, you are an Imperial citizen. You're gonna die if something sneezes on you. Tier 1 is like, okay, like you're a hive ganger, or like maybe an Imperial
You've had some experience.
guardsman. Like Tier 2, kind of like you're a stormtrooper. You might be like a Space Marine scout. And it goes all the way up to Tier 5, which is like, you're a Primaris Marine. Like, you murder everybody. Congratulations.
That's not a bad way to approach it.
And so when you're building a campaign for Wrath and Glory, it's very much about like the GM and the players deciding what kind of game they want to build, and it's like, what kind of power level does everyone feel
what
cool
tier
with?
are we going to settle in at?
What kind of game are people expecting?
We can crank it all the way up.
And you can crank it up all the way up, and you can kind of get players who like, well, sure, maybe I'm taking some of the Tier 2 stuff in a Tier 3 game, but I'm getting all these bonuses because I get way more points to spend. And so that's an interesting mechanic.
Nice.
And I love that from like the thematic. And one thing that really jumped out at me from the rule book that I was not expecting at all, there are at least 2 different Xenos campaigns that you can run out of it.
Really?
You can have a full party of orcs or a whole party of Eldar. And so, like, I was reading through the first adventure they've done. It's a 132-page book. That's an adventure. It's a compilation of adventures. That's like, I think it's like 5. And the last one is an all Eldar adventure.
Ooh,
and I'm like,
interesting.
that is a neat way of framing a story. And it also is a neat way if you're like running a campaign of, hey, like, role-playing games are these huge time investments.
Absolutely.
We've all got to meet, like, once a week or once a month, and we're going to game for, like, 8 hours straight. It's going to be great. Bring the Mountain Dew. And you have these things, and it's like, which it has different constraints than a 40K game, and like they're both different in their own ways. With 40K, you have to paint all these models and do all this stuff.
Absolutely.
With a role-playing game, you have to bring a character sheet. Like,
it's different prep.
It's different prep, and the GM is way more stressed in a role-playing game. And in 40K, it's a bit of like both players. One thing that is really just appealing to me about this game is the idea that you can go and be like, yeah, but by the way, we might just do a campaign for like 1 or 2 sessions. Like, or hey, do you guys want to do like a badass, like you're a tactical squad of Space Marines?
Are we making this
like
a big sprawling
we can do this
campaign,
huge story, or you can do a mix of them, and you can do this neat thing, which I think their first adventure really hints at, where you can be like, okay, so we're gonna start with this story in this hive city with like these citizens who come across crazy hoodoo, and then the next that might last 2 or 3 sessions. And then you continue that story, but like now you're the inquisitorial warband who's been called in, and you do that for 2 or 3 sessions. Like, oh no, demons! And then it's like, okay, now we're doing the Space Marines who are coming in to like deal with this. And then you have like and meanwhile during all 3 of these stories, at the end of it, we're gonna run our 3-session arc that's the Eldar and how they've been messing with everything behind this. And it's this neat way of framing.
That's very interesting to have that so interconnected.
Yeah, and you can you can do that with the game. So
that's an impressive way to go about it.
I'm very much looking forward to running it. The PDFs were released today on DriveThruRPG, so you can pick them all up. I've got the physical rule book because I don't think they have a distributor yet. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this in case it takes you a few months.
Just in case.
Yeah,
we gotta get on it.
But I mean, I've talked to producer Josh. We're both very interested in this game. Yeah, he's gonna come and make some lewd gestures. Oh wait, no. He's not used to this camera. There we go.
There you go.
That's right. So I definitely think it's something that as we determine things, I am very interested in running even just like a one shot of it to see how it plays
Of course.
and stream that.
Well, I'm getting excited just listening to you talk about it because it sounds like it's really caught your attention.
Yeah, like again, role playing games are my thing.
Well,
but,
obviously,
but
yeah.
it's. I always find that different systems inspire me in different ways because, different systems tend to emphasize different rules or different ways of playing a game. And so, with Wrath and Glory, there seem to be a lot of different ways to play a game. And so, I don't feel like, okay, we're going to start this game and we're all going to be in this for the next 2 years and every day is going to be a grind.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely a sense of story to it, and it definitely seems like a game that's really going to appeal to 40K players, because you talk about role-playing games and you're like, okay, wow, I have to buy my set of dice, like here's my D20, here's my D4, here's my D12, blah blah blah.
They're keeping it simple by doing it.
And it's all D6s, like
Yeah.
and if you want to do miniatures, people can bring in their minis. Like, there's all these layers to it that I think are just really appealing to 40K players to bring them in.
So, question from the chat that kind of ties in
yeah.
there. Do you think Wrath and Glory will lend itself more to crunchy D&D dungeon crawling or more cinematic stuff like Fate? And how easy do you think it'll be to pick up?
So I think at its core mechanic, like a dice pool system is pretty easy to master once you get into it. Like, generally speaking, you're going to look at something like you have your, haven't memorized the rules yet, but you have like your core attributes. So maybe like you have something like perception or like your fellowship would be a good one, like your charisma, and you might like have like a skill that's related to fellowship that's like your ability to like carouse with people and like get information from people. So your fellowship might be 4 and you might have like 1 or 2 ranks in carouse, so you smash those together and you're rolling 6 dice.
Interesting.
And one of the interesting things, too, about that is there's one dice that's always marked differently than all the others.
Okay.
And that's the one dice that can determine if you critically succeed or critically fail.
Okay.
So you could be rolling 13 dice, but the crit is only going to be based off one specially
single
marked
special
dice.
dice.
And
That's
I
interesting.
think it's going to lend itself really well to both styles of play. I think you definitely could do the like, okay, we're pulling out the old square mat, we're putting it down, we're drawing out some like hive city scum lands, and you're going room to room shooting people. But I think it also lends itself well to a really cinematic experience.
Interesting. So they're kind of letting you choose which you prefer and going in that direction.
Exactly.
Giving you the tools for everything.
The way I've kind of read it so far, and I could be like way off base for my interpretation. Everything changes in actual play, but it seems like kind of a hybrid between more of the like the crunchy style of gameplay that you see with like D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, and then something like Fate, where it's pretty like, yeah, we have a pool of dice and we're just kind of doing crazy stuff. I think there's a middle ground that we're seeing with
and
this
is
game.
like the happy middle there.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And
so that's Wrath and Glory.
Yeah, that
keep an eye on this space. We're probably going to do something.
Absolutely.
Josh is nodding vigorously.
Yeah, I would be all in on whatever we're doing for that.
Yeah.
And then I guess that can tail us off with the Highlander preparation.
Boy.
So
what time is it? I need to go home and paint again.
Yeah, right. So I just found out today that I'm going to be participating in Highlander instead
congratulations.
of TOing. So that means I've got a lot of painting to go start doing. I was just hammering out the list and figuring out what I need to do, and it's not horrible, but there's 21 models, 6 jet bikes, and 15 infantry. So that's a week now. Yeah, I know. You were actually preparing for it.
I was.
I was sitting there dicking around with spooky ghosts.
I was preparing for it and realized like, oh crap! I have to paint 4 models. Okay,
crap.
I've got it down to 1. The remaining model is my Plague Burst Crawler, which I've got like 1 ring of paint on now. So but yeah, so I'm kind of madly in prep for that because I've got to get the Plague Burst Crawler done, and I've kind of like been trying to punch myself to get some of the extra prep done. Like my army is definitely tabletop worthy. but I'm like neurotic, and I'm like, these units need to be highlighted.
Yeah, this is gonna be like smashing out the color scheme as quick as I
See,
can.
that's
yeah.
see, and that's the difference right now. I forget. Does Highlander have a requirement for objective markers? I wasn't sure if there were bonus points.
I
don't know if they
remember,
do.
not 100%.
Someone, one of those. See, I didn't have to worry about organizing, so I'm like, I just get paid. But I might do some objective markers, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I've got some that I prepped up for Plains of War a couple years ago. and
I might
fine. I'm set there.
I might post my list to a few different places to be like, please see if this is legal, because that's important. Make sure you do that. Don't just show up to an event with a list being like, I made it in Battlescribe, and it's totally legit.
Yeah.
Triple, quadruple check.
I have checked this one to make sure it's compatible with the rules because I was giving some guys practice previously.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do a ton with it. The one transport restriction really, really hurts me, but
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. I'm gonna be throwing a couple big groups of troops on foot.
I may be relying a lot on big blobs of troops on foot.
Yep.
Big plague bear blobs of troops on foot. But yeah, no, so I'm doing a Plague Bear Scrawler.
Yeah.
It's actually probably going to go really fast because I've been listening to the new Horus Heresy audio.
Well, I'm glad there's gonna be something I can shoot with my haywire bikes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing. But yeah, no. So I've got the latest Horus Heresy on queue. I'm going through that book pretty,
Excellent.
consuming that at a pretty good pace. It actually briefly ties into the Titanicus stuff, which has been interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Not required, but probably a good idea. Duly noted.
There you go, tournament players. Objective markers are a good idea.
40 mil bases? Question mark.
Yeah, that's.
Damn it. Okay. I think that's what chapter approved shows me.
It
It's a nurgling Lester. Yeah. So Highlander is going to be.
I'm excited for it. It's always an interesting event.
This will be my first because I'm always in like con mode, prep mode.
Yeah.
So this is kind
Yeah.
of the first. It falls in between two of my cons, and I've kind of said nope, not this Saturday, but next Saturday I'm doing the Highlander. This weekend, however, all in on painting because I'm gonna try to get everything done in anticipation. I want to actually maybe see if I can spend a couple evenings coming up actually getting some practice games in because
I've got one on Monday against Logan,
Okay.
possibly for a practice game.
Cool.
But yeah, tomorrow I go back to work, and it's 7 days in a row of closing shifts. So it's going to be interesting. It will
Yeah.
be the traditional night before the event, wrapping up the army.
yeah,
I've avoided it for multiple events, and it's finally catching up
but
to
you're
me.
switching out armies now.
I'm switching out armies, and much
Don't worry,
happier.
2019 Gene Stealer called. I'm gonna hate myself. Yay!
It's okay. If I really want to hate myself, I can just go throw the Zinch on the table.
That's fair.
It's all ready to go.
That's fair. There you go. So yeah, no, that's about it. I think in terms of this week.
Yeah.
I think next week we didn't want to touch it too much this week. I think next week is the plan. We're going to go into
We'll
some of the
touch a little bit heavier on the
ITC,
tournament stuff. Yeah.
the ITC changes, which it's very good that I wasn't having to talk about it because I don't even remember what the last ITC stuff
man.
was versus now.
I'm happy with some of the new changes, but it still doesn't affect my Harlequins list in any way,
There
shape,
you go.
or form.
There you go.
So
So
here I am again, unintentionally dodging ITC restrictions.
hey, that's the way to do it.
That's the way to go about it, unintentional.
then,
with
yeah,
that,
let's,
let's thank some sponsors and wrap it up. But maybe I'll give an outro because I didn't do an intro.
You're fine.
They're fine. It's all good. So let's start with where we are today. PvP Cyber Lounge, as usual. Thank you for hosting our podcast, for hosting our Tuesday night monthly gaming event,
Yeah.
and of course occasional events like tournaments that we hold here.
Yep. One quick reminder about the Highlander: it will not be at PvP. So
Not
for
here.
those of you who are thinking that, no, it's not.
Please go to the 40 Below Gaming website to check the Highlander event.
It was also posted in the group today. I believe it's.
Yes.
It's on Osborne.
It's
I
the
don't.
Legion on
yeah.
South Osborne.
Yeah. I don't
But-
know the exact address, but it's the Legion.
We have
on
all
South
the
Osborne.
information posted up there.
Which
As
I believe
usual,
is fairly
40 Below
close
Gaming.
to game night games and cool stuff.
Well, in fact,
Another
it
one of
is
our
very close
sponsors.
to Game Night Games, one of our wonderful sponsors, who are really sprucing up their new location.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went in there a couple weeks ago for a different game, and yeah,
Pretty
it's
impressive.
looking real good.
Pretty impressive. And now they've got the outside a little more identifiable. They've got like
the sign
the
and
fake
the dragon,
stonework and
yeah.
everything up. Yeah. We also, of course, have On-Call Solutions and AYBOnline.com, longtime sponsors of Twin Eagles, who then rolled into 40 Below Gaming sponsors.
Yeah, we have Byron's Northern Lights Terrain, which if you're getting all in on Kill Team, I would probably suggest
I would be getting some Byron Terrain.
Look at
Yep.
look at Northern Lights right away because. Oh boy, terrain is important for this game, and
he makes some excellent
some
terrain.
really good terrain for both something like Kill Team and something like a regular 40k game. So,
His Infinity Train would work perfectly.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
Infinity Train for
we
Kill
don't,
Team.
yeah, and that would Battle Foam as well. I have a Battle Foam problem. I have 5 of their cases in my closet. I just realized, like, if I'm doing all in on Gene Stealer Cult, gonna have to.
You have to get another one, right?
I'm gonna have to get more foam.
Yeah.
We're done with cases.
You just need the
Fabio
foam.
convinced me to stop at 4, and then I won one from 40 Below.
Hell, let me know if you ever want to get rid of one.
I know. And then I've also got to get some Charon Pattern Inquisitor
Yep.
things if they got
Yep.
those. Anyways, yeah, so Battle Foam for all your foam and army protection needs. They are great.
Of course, I want that stuff in Brandon. They are a wonderful gaming location there. Covers everything from Magic through the 40K and quite a few other games as well.
Yeah, and finally our
Long time
Long-time-
sponsor.
primary, just about on the cusp of leaving Winnipeg, Hidden City Comics.
It does make me sad that the gaming end of it is now shut
It's now
down.
shut down.
Yep.
Yeah, you can still pop by.
Please do. There is still product to move for
Yep.
George. There's still a lot of good sales going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely pop in and help clear out the last little bits.
Absolutely.
I don't know the exact end date, but it is end of this month, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it is by the end of this month. He's
Yeah.
going to be out of there.
So we're
I
talking
don't
a
know.
couple weeks tops, and he's going to be done.
So
Happy for George that he's able to move on to the next step for his life, and hopefully we see something interesting coming in there.
absolutely.
But with that being said, folks, if you're not rolling ones, you are cheating. And thanks for joining us.
Oh, the device is not available. It's all falling apart. It's all falling apart. He didn't change which camera it was. Oh no, it's all falling apart. Oh, he fixed it. Okay. Well then. Right.